Hi all! I know that I said I was taking a little hiatus, and I totally am. I'm actually just recording this while I'm taking a break from packing, but I have experienced something today that broke my brain, and I just had to talk about it. This morning, when I woke up and checked Twitter, I witnessed the worst series of tweets I have ever seen. I am, of course, talking about the thread about media literacy and expertise posted by the I can't believe this isn't a health code violation company Steak-Umm. A company that sells meat-adjacent products is talking about media literacy on Twitter, I hear you ask? And yes they are. And this isn't the first time they've done something like this. See, in the land of brand Twitter, where household products and fast food companies are personified by underpaid marketing employees working for corporations desperately trying to hold on to some semblance of relevance in ever-increasingly saturated markets, it's hard to stand out. But Steak-Umm, they didn't just try to be #relatable like all other brands. No, they tried something new, and it's paying off. But before we get into the newest thread, we need to go back, all the way back to the before times, to trace Steak-Umm's history in the hopes that it'll help us solve the mystery of why the they are the way they are. We are going back to the ancient year of 2017. On August 10th, 2017, Steak-Umm hired a new social media manager. Things were pretty normal, the standard fare you see from brand accounts, until October of that year, when the new guy started to branch out and get a little bit more creative. See, the Steak-Umm persona he was going for was pure poster. Things like memes, jokes, self-deprecating humor, absurdity, weird poetry, posts. But mixed in with these posts were weirdly motivational, positive messages. Tweets about working hard and not letting failure stop you from following your dreams. And on October 20th, 2017, as part of one of these positive message tweets, we were given the first instance of the now infamous catchphrase, Steak-Umm bless. It wasn't long until their weird humor plus periodic positivity soup started to have a new ingredient mixed in. Wokeness. Now, as I'm sure most of you know, I'm a fan of, equality, social justice, economic justice, etc. So when I say wokeness, it isn't some kind of dog whistle or pejorative. I mean it in the genuine social justice-y way. I'm just using it because I think it's the most concise way to encapsulate the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Anyway, it was in mid-November of 2017 that Steak-Umm started to incorporate that kind of woke language into their tweets. On November 10th, they tweeted about all the sickening injustice in our world. The thing about this language is that it barely even counts as woke. I mean, I'd wager that most people hate sickening injustice. But what this tweet says to me is that the social media guy was testing the waters to see how people would respond. And they responded pretty positively. I mean, the tweet didn't blow up, but it did okay. It was a success. This continued, and as they grew, they started to incorporate more and more of this anti-big business, pro-social justice language into their tweets, like this one about how they support net neutrality. Near the end of 2017, they pulled back the curtain a little and had a whole thread about how some people feel tricked because of how real the account seems, but that they promised that there were no corporate meetings with dudes in suits trying to figure out how to trick millennials into thinking the Steak-Umm Twitter isn't actually a brand, because if that were the case, they'd come off way more r/fellow-kids-esque. In other words, no, I actually am just like you. The company that hired me isn't controlling what I tweet, so that means Steak-Umm is good, actually. Anyway, this continued into 2018 when they posted about how they wanted to overthrow corrupt oppressors and even wrote a whole mock state, or stake, of the Union address, and they had a tweet about how sexism is bad that was fairly successful. But it turns out that 2018 was the year they really came into their persona. This is when the Steak-Umm we know today was born. It was the year of the first big thread. On September 26, 2018, Steak-Umm, the brand of almost meat created specifically so you don't have to chew it, wrote a thread about millennial nihilism. Why are so many young people flocking to brands on social media for love, guidance, and attention? I'll tell you why. They're isolated from real communities, working service jobs they hate while barely making ends meet, and are living with unchecked personal mental health problems. They're crushed by student loan debt, disenfranchised by past generations, and are dreading the future of our world every day from mass media addiction and the struggle to not just be happy, but to survive this chaotic time with every problem happening at once under a microscope. They grew up through the dawn of internet culture and have had mass advertising drilled into their media consumption. Now they're being resold their childhoods by remakes, sequels, spin-offs, and other cheap nostalgia, making them more cynical to growth or authenticity. They often don't have parents to talk to because they say stuff like, "You don't know how good you have it." And they don't have mentors to talk to because most of them have no concept for growing up in this strange time, which perpetuates the feeling of helplessness and loneliness. They have full access to social media and the information highway, but they feel more alone and insecure than ever. Being behind a screen 24/7 has made them numb to everything, anxious and depressed about everything, and vitriolic or closed off toward anyone different from them. Young people today have it the best and the worst. There's so much to process and very few trusted, accessible outlets to process it all through. So they go to memes. They go to obscure or absurdist humor. They go to frozen meat companies on Twitter. End rant. Steak-Umm bless. So yeah, that was their first big thread, and it blew up. People loved it. I mean, imagine the Twitter account of a barely consumable, only meat because of a technicality, was doing real, serious analysis of our current culture. People ate it up. And then, 3 days later, before most of the world had completed their refractory period, Steak-Umm hit them again, this time offering a list of basic advice for how to share and shape opinions. After these two threads, the world would never be the same. Steak-Umm had officially become the mascot of level-headed, rational thinking on the internet. And that trend, posts plus positivity plus threads of serious cultural analysis, continued for a few years up to July 29th, 2021, when they released yet another Twitter thread. This time, the thread was about societal distrust in experts and institutions, the rise of misinformation, cultural polarization, and how to work towards some semblance of mutually agreed upon information before we splinter into irreconcilable realities. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it is very, very long, and I have it linked in the description if you want to check it out, but honestly, the actual content of the thread itself isn't really all that important. What's important is people's reaction to it. See, just like with the other threads, people loved it. They loved it so much, in fact, that they decided to go out and buy Steak-Umm. Now, this is where the problem comes in. This is why this thread enraged me down to my core. Because this thread, and not just this thread, but all the threads Steak-Umm makes, aren't actually about social justice. They are about frozen sheets of meat. They are about money. Something that I've talked about before on this channel is how companies only exist to make money. My previous video essay on the topic was mostly focused on the health angle, how food companies will only make healthy foods if it's profitable, and how they market foods as healthy even if they aren't because the veneer of healthiness looks appealing to customers. But this applies to all kinds of marketing. Companies will literally only do something if it makes them money. That's capitalism, folks.
That's
capitalism, folks. When they make jokes, when they tweet about relatable situations, when they post about politics without actually making substantive changes to back up their words with action, they are doing all that just to get you to like them. Because if you like them, you will buy whatever they're selling.
perfectly.
When you see their tweets and you think, man, that makes me want to buy some Steak-Umm, or wow, this company has similar values to me, I want to support them by buying their product, you are falling for corporate propaganda. Now, I know there are lots of criticisms that you can make of my points. Plenty of people have done so in my Twitter replies already, but I'll still offer a little bit of a preemptive response here. All the things this Steak-Umm account says are things I agree with, and having good ideas put into the world is a good thing. But what isn't good is how this affects our behavior. Because Steak-Umm isn't a person. Their account is run by a person, but the company is a company. But they're trying so hard to get you to think the company is a person, to believe that this entity actually likes you, or is actually funny, is actually woke, because if you see them as a person, you'll like them. People are good, companies aren't. Companies do anything, say whatever they think people want to hear if it will make them money. But if this is a person, if the person behind the account can convince you the company he represents is also a person, is also likable, is also really into social justice, I swear, then you'll buy their products. Because you love to support your friends, and you and Steak-Umm are friends, right? I mean, he tweets like your friends tweet. He makes jokes like your friends make jokes. Of course you're friends. It's not that I think these threads are the worst, most dangerous evil in the world. They aren't. But I do think they work to trick people into thinking brands can be our friends, that companies do care about social and economic justice. But they don't. They care about money. We've been convinced to trust the marketing of a company to educate us on serious issues. But, and maybe this is a radical notion, I think we don't need a brand of barely beef to tell us how to engage with other people in intellectually honest ways. And worst of all, I think these kinds of things make us complacent. They make us think that by buying their frozen air quotes meat, we are doing something good. We're supporting a company that has our values, right? There's something to be said for supporting businesses whose messages you believe in. I do think that's a good thing. But A, does the business actually support these ideals? Or do they just say they support them without backing up those claims with action? Or is it just the social media guy who supports those ideals and the company lets him do whatever he wants because clearly it's working? No one has thought about Steak-Umm this much in years. And B, if you're only buying something because a social media manager posted on Twitter about how we need to trust scientists and listen to each other and get out of our echo chambers, is anything actually getting done? Or are you just spending your money on a product because of a crummy commercial? It is a commercial. It always was, and it always has been. And if you keep buying these products and promoting the pages who do stuff like this, it's going to continue. And I don't mean that companies are suddenly going to fight for social and economic justice. I mean their social media managers are going to tweet about social and economic justice. And every retweet is another ounce of free advertising you are giving them, all while you feel guilt-free because this company happens to be one of the good ones. And nothing will change. Consumption isn't activism. Consumption is something we have to do to survive in this world, and if you enjoy Steak-Umm, go follow your gross little dreams, but don't confuse doing exactly what the marketing team wanted you to do with substantive change. Don't think that a social media page, a page built specifically to get you to buy a product, is ever worth listening to about anything. It's an ad. And you fell for it. Thank you for watching until the end. I do need to go get back to packing, so I'm gonna make this quick, but this video was brought to you by all of my wonderful patrons whose names are scrolling by here, and I want to give a huge thank you to Zauber, Sigwa, A Tasty Snack, Comrade Fox, Robert Bradford, Jameson Huddle, Mohammed Al-Sabah, Dylan, Merritt Grames, and Adam. And until next time, stay safe, stay warm, and I will see y'all again soon, I hope. Bye, folks.